Good afternoon, everyone. Live with Instagram. We're just about to start. We'll bring Laura on right away here. I'll get Laura to request the ad, and we can start this interview live with her as well. I see Lindsay is on. Hey, Lindsay. Looking forward to chatting with you on this. And I will quickly add on live here. Lindsay, looking forward to chatting about your photo shoot as well. Hey, Laura.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. Hold on. Let me get you a little higher here. How are you?
Good. I went to Walmart and invested in a simple $20 little tripod, and the greatest thing, greatest investment ever lately.
Yeah, luckily I carry one around with me for self-tapes and auditions. So it's
yeah. I know you
yeah.
said you've been doing some auditions lately. Have you been doing them virtually, or how are they doing them now?
Well, it's not much different than it has been the past several years. There's a lot of self-tapes that happen now. It's easier for casting, especially for Canadian actors that are auditioning for projects in LA.
Yeah.
So we've all had to, figure out the magical art of self-tape and lighting and finding a reader last minute. So right now it's self-tapes, and a lot of actors are having actor friends just FaceTime on their laptop and read the lines off camera because you can't have an actor with you. So.
Are you liking it?
Which, the quarantine or the self-tapes?
No, the actual doing it in the privacy of your own home, the self-taping or doing it live, but via an Instagram or a Zoom where you're doing a face-to-face with them, but remote.
I haven't had any because they're not really, from what I can tell, they're just auditioning. They're not, making decisions on casting right now. They're just getting as many auditions as they can.
Yeah.
Under their belts, and then I guess we'll decide later. But there hasn't been any live auditions like this or on Zoom. It's literally everyone I know in Canada is just sending in self-tapes, and then I think our industry is shut down until 2021, so it sort of feels pointless, but then at the same time you're like, I have the time, I should be auditioning anyways.
Yeah. I was talking to Mario, who we both know, Mario Tassone, PR in the industry, and he said, the entire world has been shut down and filming and how it's going to come back. It's going to be a little bit different as well. So there's Frankie.
Frankie, there's Roger. Say hi.
You did a movie a while ago where the name was Frankie in it. Is that where Frankie got his name from?
That was what, Damage or something? No, oddly. I'm a huge Frank Sinatra fan. Her name is Frankie Blue Eyes, but she's a rescue, and the rescue, ironically, had already named her Frankie Blue Eyes.
Yeah.
I fell in love with her, and then they told me her name, and it was just fate, so she kept it. And actually, I embarrassingly spoke to a dog psychic over a week ago with my sister over FaceTime, and fine, I'm sure people don't believe, but it was interesting. And the first thing Frankie wanted me to know was she liked her name.
Wow.
So.
Frankie, I've got more Instagram followers than me right now.
Well, you're gonna get them now, guys. You gotta follow Roger. He's amazing.
But those are the eyes are hypnotic on Frankie.
I mean,
it's almost not normal.
No, she's tired right now and extremely bored with me.
Yeah.
But she does have her eyes do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Martine and I have two rescues as well. Actually, they come from the States, majority of the rescues here. So I'm so happy to hear you've got a rescue as well.
Yeah. Everyone should be. Apparently right now it's actually difficult to rescue and adopt a dog. Everyone's lining up during quarantine, which is great, but I'm also concerned that people are getting dogs right now because they're home and have the time and it seems fun. And I want people to adopt if they know it's a commitment. Even when this is over and you're not home, you have to figure out that situation.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, my wife is part of a animal rescue where she actually has to do the home visits to see
Yep, that's great.
if they apply or not. And it's uncomfortable. I go with her, obviously, from a safety standpoint, and it's literally a 2-hour process where she asks them everything from your kids and your family and your schedule of your life, and are you ready for adopting of a dog, and then she makes, you know, writes in her report of yes or no, and it's uncomfortable. I feel for the families.
I can imagine. Yeah, I had friends in LA who just adopted a dog through the organization I got, Frankie. And I had written a letter to them as well saying that this is a great couple. But yeah, they had the home visit. It's very stressful. They got the dog, which is great.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Yeah.
So yeah.
So I'm so excited to chat with you on everything fashion and film. It's going to blow by. And we got a few questions, obviously, that some people want to ask as well. I know our mutual friends, photographer Lindsay and Cynthia Floric with the Trend Office are also online. And you recently just did a photo shoot with them, and I believe it was with Stefan Karas's dress and maybe Narcissus.
And Narcissus, yeah.
Can you talk a bit about that?
It was I mean, Lindsay on her own and Cynthia are incredible artists. And that was the second time I worked with Cynthia. We actually had done a shoot the day before together. That's when we met, and I just fell in love with her. But Lindsay and I have known each other for a little while. She shot me several times, always gets a cover. Like, she's just incredible. But that shoot was for Preferred Magazine, and the fashion was just out of this world. And yeah, Stefan Karas and Narcissus and a bunch of other incredible designers. I mean, we've got some really talented people in Canada, so I'm always thrilled when I do a shoot and a stylist like Cynthia, who I want to work with forever, and Lindsay, brings new pieces that I've never heard of from Canadian designers. So it's nice.
Yeah, we're blessed in Canada. We've you know, I talk a lot about it as a fashion broker, you know, the humility our country has, but, you know, very similar, you know, to yourself as an actor, our talent globally is second to none on those that want to work with us. And again, thanks to our lousy Canadian dollar, you know, we get more and more of that European and American, you know, opportunities here in Toronto or Vancouver or Montreal. So
yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. So you know, one of my questions for you is obviously you're one of Canada's most photographed actors at the various events you go to. I think one of the last times I saw you, we were bombing around for a full day in my Jeep, visiting styling suites and designers and whatever have you.
Thank you for that.
I'm sorry?
Thank you again for that.
Oh, are you kidding? That was a lot of fun. How do you actually mentally, physically, like, how do you prepare for that? I remember during the last tip, you know, you had it checked off. I've got this. I've got a red carpet over here. I've got a gala evening with the Screen Guilds or the various parties that you go to. You know, how do you prepare for that, knowing that within hours, you know, your photos are going to be everywhere?
Well, I think, you know, I'm an introvert. So, and I think there's a lot of introverts in this business. And I've been doing this since I was 12. So I've had to find a way to adapt. So for events like this, you know, with red carpets and appearances and photographs, I'm not comfortable with it. If you're actually standing beside me on the carpet while my photo is taken, I am shaking. Yeah. I'm just trying to keep it together. I want to do a good job. I want to, you know, show what I'm wearing for the stylist, for the designer. Like, I want to get the photos for the people that helped me get ready to attend, but I am so nervous. So it's pretty much a whole day of preparing mentally that I have to go out and do this and try to be social and schmooze, which I'm terrible at. But then I basically go into the events, do what I need to do. I usually end up enjoying it, but I'm the first person to be like, how can I leave now? You know, it's I don't think it's anything I can ever really adjust to. It's just a part of the job, and I understand that it is.
And I'm very much an extrovert, so I'm going to pretend I understand the mindset. But I mean, you know, you look stunning. You know, you're going to be photographed. I mean, this isn't your first rodeo. You've been in the industry well over a decade. Again, forgive me to ask, but the mindset again, it must just be turned key after a while. You know, the images are going to be in Getty. You know, Lindsay's going to be there. The George Pimentals of the world are going to be there.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to be in People Magazine. They're going to be wherever have you. Isn't it just turnkey after a while?
No, and the thing is, I mean, not for me, I can't speak for everybody. I never feel like I'm supposed to be there. I don't feel like I'm, why am I there? Who, like, I just always feel like a fraud. Um, so it's also for me mentally feeling like I've been working for 22 years. I'm allowed to be here, but I just always feel like I don't belong. And I feel like a lot of people feel that way. But yeah, it's not turnkey. It's here we go again. Get through
Well,
it. Have a shot of tequila and go.
you've literally done over 50 films, TV, movie, Disney, you know, starting at the age of 13. It's interesting now, you know, after 2 decades in film and television, that, you know, that mindset's there. It's interesting to hear the concept. And I'm sure that's what keeps you also so humble. Those that know you, you know, you're one of the nicest people ever. You're always doing a nice shout out to whoever did your hair and makeup or what have you. You know, you're very much good on giving props.
Oh, well, thank you. That just seems like something you should be doing. That's not, I don't think I'm the only one. You know, everyone in this industry is working to create an art or a craft that they love. And if you happen to be the person they're doing it on, of course you should give that shout out or whatever you want to call it, especially when they're people that you work with consistently. I mean, I have a team that I always like to work with, and that grows as I meet more Canadian artists that I fall in love with. And I want to make sure everyone
Yeah.
gets the credit they deserve.
Yeah.
You know? It just makes sense. I don't know why you wouldn't.
The many questions that I got on for those that are, you know, want to know what you're thinking or, you know, your take on things. You, again, as I mentioned, you've been in over 50 films, TV shows, movies. You've played Supergirl on Smallville.
Okay, it was like 15 years ago.
Oh my God. I mean, honestly, there's just so much. And you've worked with some of the best, you know, designers, creative directors, whatever have you, within film. Is there one particular film that you've had, and I'm kind of piecing together a couple of the questions we got on, that really stuck with you, that resonated with your character or who you were, your character as who you are as a day-to-day Laura? One particular film or movie that really stuck with you from a fashion standpoint?
From a fashion standpoint.
For clothing, apparel. And it could be where you played a zombie, whether you played, you know, a character in the past, present, you know, or future.
Mm. From a fashion standpoint, you know, the film that you and I met on, Rabid, was very high fashion. That's the first film I've done that's that high fashion. So I think if we're talking high fashion, Canadian designers, you know, red carpet worthy, interesting, creative stuff, it would be Rabid. But in terms of just character clothing, probably I did a series called Bitten for 3 years, and I played a character named Elena Michaels. And even though her style, I wouldn't even call it, I don't want to call it basic, but she's a tomboy. She wore jeans and great, you know, motorcycle jackets and camo and that was more my style and personally, so I felt more comfortable within my character's shoes, literally.
Yeah.
So that probably had a personal impact because I could relate to the character more so.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, projects that I've worked on, such as Rabid, with higher fashion, I did a show called White Collar. I did a show called Ice, characters where I'm a lawyer. You know, wardrobe is so important. What these costume designers do for actors, I don't think people realize how important that is for us to create the character.
Sure.
Even on Supergirl, the series, I played a blue alien. And that's fine. I can use my imagination, but it wasn't until the costume was on. They built this costume from scratch. And then also the prosthetics and makeup. But once you have the character's outfit on, you start to move differently. You hold yourself differently. And for me, that's kind of the beginning of and the end of understanding who my character is. I've done all the mental preparation, I've done the emotional preparation and the lines, but it's not until you're in that costume that you are fully in character and in their skin.
Yeah, you've got a great personal style as it is. How much, and I guess it's different from, you know, TV show to TV show, movie to movie, where the costume designer says, you know, Laura, what do you think? Or what are you comfortable with? You know, where you literally, I'm going to guess and educate me, you know, you might go through a movie or a TV show with 5 to 10 to 15 different outfits. But meanwhile, in the wardrobe department, there's literally 20, 30, 40 racks of clothing because they have to be prepared, you know, if something doesn't match with the rest of the cast as well. Where I'm going with that is that costume designer, how much do they rely on your opinion, your sense of style for that specific movie?
It depends on where you are on the call sheet, I think. You know, main cast will have a bit of a say normally, depending on the costume designer. I mean, there might be, I've never had this, but there might be costume designers that just don't want to hear the actors' opinions and they have their own, and that's that. Yeah. I've been lucky enough to work with costume designers that collaborate with me on shows where I am a regular or a lead. And also there's trial and error, right? You know, you have camera tests. You need to see what colors look right on the sets when you're setting the tone of the show. Another example would be Bitten. You know, our show was very dark and moody, so we had camera tests to determine what colors would work best. And obviously, characters in the same scene can't wear the same color. You have doubles or triples of everything that you're going to be destroying if there's blood or a fight scene. Yeah. So yeah, then there's certain color palettes they don't want a character in because that color represents a certain thing, right? To the audience. I originally came to Toronto on this trip before all of this happened to start a new show, and didn't get to day one, but was very excited to go into the wardrobe department because it's a show that I love. So.
Are you actually able to leave with some of the pieces from the wardrobe after? I know everyone's different, but every show is different.
Every show is different. I mean, if you're just a guest star or recurring, not just, I mean, that's important as well, but because you may be coming back, like if you might be leaving for the season, but you might come back, they generally don't want you taking things, especially if the end of a season is a cliffhanger, and then season 4, you need to be wearing that exact outfit to pick it up again. They don't want me to do that. But I have taken pieces. I mean, Smallville, I took my Kryptonian bracelet. Yeah. And on Bitten, I took basically as much as they let me take at the end of each season because it was me. So yeah, you can. Some people work it into their contracts. I mean, on Rabbit, I knew we would have some amazing stuff. So I just kind of like nudged some people and said, I kind of really like this. If it works out, great. Yeah. Well, I mean, Tara Rivas did an amazing outfit that I took. So,
Tara Rivas, I think she had that red outfit that you were photographed quite a bit with. Smythe. You know, there's some beautiful pieces from Smythe.
Smythe killed it, and I'm obsessed. If anyone who's watching who might not know Smythe, it's a Canadian brand. They do incredible tailored suits. I actually wore it to TIFF this year. And yeah, they did an incredible plaid blazer for our film as well. Yeah.
Jewelry, you know, as much as I like to talk about fashion, you know, jewelry and other accessories, and I know the shoes were House of Hyla. Yes. You've got some of that collection as well.
I think I have all of them.
And it's an extensive collection of the House of Hyla. And they were quite heavy in that movie as well. And I was watching, again, we'll talk about Age of Dysphoria, the movie, you know, you're doing now with Gordon Vincent. Why isn't jewelry as much of an accent piece, so to speak, literally as an accent piece, and I'll dive to a movie, and forgive me for my bad memory, I think it was called Coffee Shop. I think it was done in Alabama, where it's, you know, it's down home, it's pretty much your style day to day, it's just cool and casual. But jewelry and accessories don't seem to be such a play. And what is the reason for that? For somebody who's you know, you've been again in the industry for so long and you've worn such great fashion. Why doesn't it play as much of a character role, so to speak?
Oh, and you mean just in film and television, or?
Yeah, yeah, jewelry and accessories as a whole.
Mm. I would, I mean, this is my thought process on this. I've never really thought about it until this moment. I think with television and film, you know, they want it to be as realistic as possible for the viewer. Most of us in the real world don't wear a lot of jewelry, and you want characters to have statement pieces. So a
Mhm.
lot of my characters usually have one necklace that they're known for wearing, and they wear it all the time. And usually there needs to be a story behind where that came from, because
Yeah.
audiences are watching these shows every week and they want to feel like they know the character. Like with your wife, if she probably has a piece of jewelry she wears all the time, and you know where it came from and what it means.
Yeah.
So they want the audience to feel that as well. But you know, obviously there are characters that the accessories are important in certain styles and types of films, like a Pretty Little Liars, or a show that's really more focused on the fashion would
Right.
have more.
Because I think of James Bond, where it doesn't matter who the Bond is, he's always wearing the Omega watch. I think it's called the Seamaster as well.
It's branding.
Yeah, and I haven't really noticed that as much in women's series as well. It was more of a behind the scenes. So you've crossed over. One of the questions, actually, I'll dive into it. Came in from a gentleman by the name of Hans. It said, "How have you found transitioning from an actress portraying a character to now being behind the camera, directing other actors?"
Great question. I haven't directed yet. I've executive produced and produced films and developed them. My next, you know, big goal when this is all over is to direct, because it terrifies me, much like the majority of this industry. Because it terrifies me, I think it would be best for me to direct. So I'm currently writing a film that I would like to direct. That'll take a while because I'm having trouble writing it, but I have my idea. But as a producer, I don't want to say enjoyed it more than acting, but I've quite liked the executive producer chair, not because of the power or anything horrible like that, but because I like the creative process and I like to be in it from the beginning, from the ground up. As an actor, you come in when a majority of the decisions have already been made and you have a job and you do that job. But as an executive producer or a producer, there are so many, you know, moving pieces that you have to put in place, and there's so many hats to wear. And after 21 years of acting, for me to be learning a whole new part of my industry is really exciting.
Yeah.
And Age of Dysphoria was the first project for me that I conceptualized. I got, you know, the director attached. She helped me get everyone, and I got the actor. You know, it beginning to end, it was thrilling and terrifying and educational, and I want to keep doing that.
Wow. And then so can you talk a little bit about Age of Dysphoria? Obviously, you're playing with Gordon Pinsett. You had quite a bit of involvement in this, from writing it, and it's a short, so it's not a feature length, but can you tell us a little bit more about it? When it's coming out as well?
Yeah, I'll tell you as much as I can. First of all, I didn't write it. I developed it in that I came up with the concept of it, but I don't trust myself as a writer, which is why I'm trying to do it right now. And so just to start off, our director, Jessica Patel, is an incredible director that I originally met on the set of Bitten the first season. And then we reconnected on the set of V-Wars, where she was a producer. And Brad Turner, an executive producer, was also on V-Wars. And during V-Wars, I was kind of coming to the end of my idea for this film. And I just approached Jessica. I asked her to coffee and I pitched it to her. And luckily she loved it and she jumped in and she found our writer, Zoe Robin. Brad Turner came on as a producer, and everything just fell into place in terms of like getting our crew and our cast and our sets. But But Age of Dysphoria is a film that I developed with my amazing team in Film Coop. It's an all-female producing team here in Toronto. Really honestly was made because I wanted to work with Gordon Pinsent.
Yeah.
It's that simple. He'd been my mentor for so long, and I hadn't had a chance to work with him, and I wasn't going to let the universe decide when that was going to happen. So
yeah.
He said yes, and so the film was made in 3 days. It's short. We were about to start the film festival circuit.
Wow.
Unfortunately, that's shut down. But we are going to be on Super Channel through the Canadian Film Fest. Okay. So you guys can check out my Instagram for the details of that, but you can watch it on your TV.
Yeah, wow, that's fantastic. I was watching an interview you did with George Drombo 9 years ago,
yeah.
where he surprised you with a comment from Gordon Pinsent as well. It was absolutely lovely.
I almost cried. Yeah, that was embarrassing. Yeah. He's an incredible Canadian icon, both George and Gordon.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. George is, I mean, oh my gosh, I love George. I love his style. He's just cool. He's everything about Canada is what George is as well. I'll dive into another question that came in. This one's from Brett, and he had asked, how much of Canada have you seen? Activities like the Stampede, skiing in Banff. Obviously, you travel quite a bit as it is, and being Canadian, you know, we all assume that we've seen, you know, coast to coast, but have you seen quite a bit of Canada?
I'm ashamed to say no. I'm ashamed to say no. No, I haven't. Haven't done the Stampede or Banff. And most of the places I've unfortunately traveled, I don't know what's going on with this hair, I'm sorry. Most of the places that I've traveled in Canada have been for work. So I would like to see more of Canada when things open up again. My family is from Newfoundland, and I'm developing a movie right now with hopes of it shooting there, and I've never been. So the first time I might go might be to scout it. Wow. So I guess I find ways to like go to the places I want to go to through work.
And then when I saw it on, you know, the films that I've worked on or assisted with, where everybody just thinks you're on vacation and it wraps up at 5 and you're going to check out town and stay up till 1 a.m. and with friends and have some drinks and show up at 9 or 10. And it's not that. It's 3 o'clock. I'm like, I'm going home, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
The hours are crazy.
Yeah, I usually don't see any portion of the city that I am shooting in. I try to on a weekend, but by then you're exhausted and you have to memorize lines for the next week, or you have stunt rehearsals. I was just talking to another actress friend of mine, and we were comparing, like, she's in another city and she's like, I don't see it. So I do find, like, I shot in South Africa, tried to see as much of it as possible, but I'd love to go back and actually calmly see it, not rush the process.
Yeah. I chat a little bit about Comic-Cons, where I've actually never been to one, and I'm fascinated by Comic-Con conventions as well. And you've actually traveled to quite a few for the various, you know, superheroes, the characters you played. For somebody who's never been to a Comic-Con festival or a convention, can you walk me through it? What's it like?
I can walk you through it from my perspective. I've never attended just, you know, as a fan. But I think it's interesting. My first Comic-Con was San Diego Comic-Con, which is the mother of Comic-Cons, and that's when I was cast as Supergirl. I hadn't even, like, I think I'd shot a day on Smallville, and they, like, threw me into the wolves with the cast, and it's great because that genre of fans is so enthused and informed, and just happy to be there that you can't. It's infectious, and it makes you realize what you're doing is actually, like, it means something to the fans. And you do often see some of the same fans in different cities, different countries. I mean, they'll come find you. And everyone's always been really kind. I mean, I've heard stories of crazy things happening. The craziest thing that's happened to me is someone had my face tattooed on their leg. And And then another had me sign his arm and then came back like 4 hours later and had tattooed that.
Oh my.
But I've never had anyone unfriendly. Everyone's super, no pun intended,
Yeah.
awesome to be around. And it's also a good excuse for cast members of a show to reconnect if that show hasn't been on for a while. We actually become closer because you're not on set. There's no pressure. You're not stressed out. Everyone's relaxed.
Yeah. And I think for me, what I find fascinating about it is I had two brothers, which were big Star Wars fans. And, you know, when it came out in 77, I think they'd each seen it 10 times. I barely made it through the first hour. It just wasn't for me.
Yep.
But for those that are at these Comic Cons, it's fascinating for them. I have a cousin who's a massive Star Trek fan, runs his own companies, 10 employees, makes a ton of money, and drops untold amounts of money traveling at
Yep.
Star Trek conventions because he loves the culture, he loves the storylines, he loves what it represents. And,
Yeah.
and I'm gathering it's the same thing, you know, with these other ones that you've been to, and the characters where, you know, people can relate to it. It becomes part of their lives as well.
I mean, yeah, and especially in the case of a show like Smallville. I mean, I wasn't on it for 10 years. I did 4, but the cast that was on it for 10, these fans grew up, the same age, grew up for 10 years before we had the streaming services, watched them every week for, 10 years and grew up with these actors. So to meet them, it's like meeting their brother or their best friend or their sister, which can make it a little complicated because we don't actually know you.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's, and I know a lot of families that go, it's a family outing every year, and they spend the whole year building their costumes and doing the cosplay.
Yeah.
And you got to appreciate how much work goes into it. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's very much an economy, and you know, from working in the creative fields that I do in fashion, I actually love it. It's fascinating to see people's takes on a certain character or how it melds within their own as well. And this actually might dive into my next question for you. Of the TV shows and the movies you've done over 2 decades, is there a specific movie or TV show that's had a profound effect on your life, or you still remember it to this day?
I'm going to answer that, but I was going to say to you when you were just talking about the costumes, maybe it might be cool, and I probably shouldn't publicly say this for you to think about, but whatever. It might be cool for you to do a contest with a designer for a Comic-Con fan to get a costume made by a designer.
It's a great idea, actually. Yeah.
And donations for charity for whatever.
Yeah,
just a thought.
It's a great idea because the movie we worked on, you know, we had over 25, you know, Canadian designers. It was very much couture pieces, and you know, Joseph Tassoni had made. I feel for him. He made so many dresses that were literally destroyed within 5 minutes, which was part of the line. And
I mean, we had the big red dress that Hanukkah wore, which was incredible, that Joseph did. And even like the Toronto Fashion Academy. I mean, there's so many talented young students out there that this could be a project that the school could, you know, make a killer costume for someone, because they do have costume contests at Comic-Con. And
yeah, honestly, it's a great idea. I'm gonna have to think this through on how you engage that, because I know Nobu had some award. Nobu, oh, you're okay there? Beautiful piece of art there.
That's okay. It's fine.
Where Frankie's like freaking out there after this.
He's all right.
Frankie's okay. Yeah, because Nobu Jewelry had these jewelry headpieces that were normally worn over, but we switched them around, you know, to be worn in the movie, which totally fit as well. No, I love the idea, which actually dives into my next question. You know, styling suites, you know, around the world, you know the ones here in Toronto, TFA, Toronto Fashion Academy, and Basel, you know, that outfitted you quite a bit. You know, Gail McInnes, you know, there's so many great styling suites. And yet, at the same point, there's so many different body styles, whether you're a size 0, you're a 2, a 4, or you're a size 12, or you're a size 14, where a lot of these styling suites, you know, it's normally size 2 to 4, or depending on the designer's collection. And you've been and part of these forever. My question's for you on getting a good tidbit of advice. If you were to redo a styling suite or a styling concept, and there's so many in LA as well that I know of, how would you do it differently?
That was one of the things that is one of the things that I find difficult. Maybe it's just I don't know if it's just Toronto or Canada, but it is difficult if you have an event to go to find and source pieces. You actually had to drive me around for a day to source pieces. I mean, there's a great company called Fitzroy Rentals that I go to here in Toronto for events, especially last minute stuff. It's rentals, and that's a great place to go. But yeah, I'm not sure. I've often thought there has to be a better way for industry and non-industry people alike to be able to find pieces for events, for meetings, and not pay top dollar. That's something that you probably know better than I do. And you can find everything in one location as well.
Right.
All the stuff that you would need.
Yeah, because it's a tough one. Because I know a couple of pieces that you absolutely fell in love with. You were literally sewn into it for an event, and had to go back to be sewn out of the outfit as well. Yeah. And it was partly because of the size. You know, one of the things you do have going for you is you are a true influencer. You know, whether you're Alicia Newman as an Olympic athlete, you're an actor, with a lot of credits behind you. You know, people genuinely do want you to promote and to assist and help, wear the outfits. But, I also know it from a designer standpoint where, it's a lot of work, to be putting into it. And, is that going to turn around? And, but I see it, whether it's Narcissus, I know you're at their Fashion Week.
I went to Fashion Week for the first time this year. I've never been. Narcissus was kind enough to invite me to their fashion show. And I got to sit front row, like it was just out of this world. And Lindsay came with me, Lindsay and Delaney, the photographer, and like just sort of showed me the ropes, because I had no idea. I've never really been to a fashion show. I've been to one. But it's a whole thing. Yeah. You know better than I do.
Yeah. Well, and you and Lindsay had a beautiful impromptu photo shoot afterwards, and I absolutely love the photos from that as well.
Yeah, thanks.
So a quick question, and again, I'm throwing this one at you. Post COVID or post this health crisis, how are you hoping that the world is seeing movies again? I was talking to somebody who was saying, AMC in the US is looking to do what's called the checkerboard model, where it's every other seat, to incorporate social distancing. Theaters cannot close for a full year until, we 100% flatten this curve. You work in an industry where you're constantly working. What's your take on this? How do you think are we going to be streaming all movies? Is it going to be drive-thrus again? Some places restaurants are incorporating drive-thrus. It's a new trend going on, where you can either doing it streaming through your phone, or they're actually bringing the drive-thru back again. What's your take on it? Any tidbits of advice?
I don't know.
Because there's a lot to be said for going and getting your popcorn and getting your
it's an experience. It's an experience.
The big screen, it's different than watching it on your home flat, monitor screen or whatever have you. It's just not the same.
It is. No, and that's one of the things that, not just for us, for a lot of filmmakers, was unfortunate about the film festivals shutting down. And obviously we respect that. But for the first film that I executive produced, we were really looking forward to the big screen Canadian premiere. But, on the flip side, you have companies like Super Channel and the Canadian Film Fest that are finding a way to get our work to an audience. Yes, it's at home. That's just the times. Nothing's going to be the same ever again.
Yeah.
But I think your industry, my industry, every industry is going to find the best scenario for that industry, within 2021. It's going to be a learning curve for everybody.
Sure.
I can't see them still having movie theaters open and only every other seats. that just, I don't know if that, I don't know.
Well, it's going to be tough to monitor that. So if it fits, you know, I think at the Isabel Bader Theatre, which we're using for Canadian International Passion Film Festival, where all of a sudden, if I'm told I got to do a checkerboard model and now I only have 245 seats, you know, it's a revenue model. Are we making money or are we losing money? So it's not necessarily, you know, but the big dollars. It's, am I making money? Am I losing money? At the same point, you know, there's a lot to be said. I think, you know, as a fellow Dutch person as well, Henk van der Kolk, who founded TIFF. And, you know, my wife and I have been to so many movies, you know, at the various theaters. And there's something about, you know, 1,000 people in a theater who have just watched that movie for the first time, and the director and the producer, and like yourself, the star of the movie's there, and they loved it, they hated it, there was emotion, there was clapping. I mean, you're not going to get that from a streaming service.
That's true. But, I mean, the world has changed. What can I say? Yes, filmmakers love to experience the film in a theater and listen to the reactions. That's also, you know, that's why they have test audiences. We find out where the laugh hit, where it didn't. Oh, that surprisingly was a joke and we didn't realize it, you know, and they can adjust the film based on that test audience. But, you know, I wish I could look into the future and know exactly how this is all going to work.
Where it's going to go.
Not just that side of it, but even on set. I believe it was Deadline put out an article about the new restrictions while on set. And it's going to be completely bizarre.
Sure.
There's
new rules. And that's in all industries. I mean, retailers are filing for bankruptcy, you know, every day. And, you know, and these are retailers that have been around for decades. So it's unfortunately, it's not just a film and fashion, and it's film industry, it's fashion industry as well. A question for you, another one, is the various brands that you've promoted or that you've, you know, they've wanted to engage with you, you know, and I don't like the word influencer or brand ambassador, but it is what it is. You know, you have an influence, you've got a style, you know, people like you for who you are and what you represent. And this is for, you know, a lot of my followers are more the business of fashion, whether it's editors or brands or creative directors. You know, for them to give a little bit more about you, or brands that want to engage with you, you know, what's your sweet spot? You know, is it animals? Is it health? Is it fitness? Is it travel? So a brand that wants to work with Laura, you know, what are your passions?
All of the things that you mentioned. I'm passionate about motivating and encouraging and uplifting young women. All women, people in general, but particularly young girls. You know, when I originally was cast as Supergirl, I met a lot of young girls who had never had a female superhero to look up to. Remember, this was like 10 years ago, before we had, you know, all of the female superheroes that we have now. And I realized that was important to me, to be that role model in any way that I could. Not that I thought I could necessarily, but just to bring a smile to their face. I didn't have that role model, and not necessarily the Supergirl capacity or superhero, but it's just important to me in society for women to feel confident in their own skin, to know that they are allowed to have a voice. So that's definitely an angle, not an angle, but that's like the direction I'd like to go into in terms of something that I support. Also, you know, animals, fitness, all of that stuff. I can't be anyone but me. I'm super awkward and introverted, but I believe in what I believe in. So those are the things that I want to pursue. And I'm still figuring out who I am, you know. Everyone's constantly growing, and I want to be there for young girls who are doing the same.
Well, and those that are following your Instagram during the quarantine, you know, you're winning Aunt of the Year award with everything you're posting online, where you're making forts. I'm just fascinated by your Instagram. On these kids realize how lucky they are with their aunt spending so much time with them. So
I'm also trying to entertain myself with the forts and the arts and crafts. It's also for me, but thank you.
That alone is a bit of a sitcom or a TV show, but So obviously you're giving, you know, your these nephews, you know, a bit of a role model. Who were some of your role models growing up?
Um, they, it's hard to really know. I think the first person that I looked at as a possible role model would be Anna Klumsky, an actress from the movie My Girl,
Okay.
because that was the film that got me into acting. That was the film that I had an emotional reaction to and connected with. After that, it was probably Goldie Hawn, um, Meryl Streep, Michelle Pfeiffer. I loved Betty Davis. I loved the Hitchcock films, which is probably what directed me into like the darker genre that I go towards.
Sure.
Tim Burton. There's been a lot of inspirations and people I look up to in terms of role models. You know, I would say Gordon because he's always been there for me. He wrote me letters growing up about how to act on set and to not give up. And
Yeah.
I told him about all the failures and why am I doing this? And he just
Yeah.
motivated me. So that
Yeah.
would be a role model I've had growing up. And then I've had influences and people I've admired.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a great answer. One of the questions that was been going through the feed there, which dives into one of my questions, you know, based on inspiration and having powerful female figures, you know, in your life and for inspiration, if you were to play a character, you know, in the future, who would that be? And what would be a dream character or a role you would like to have?
Um, that's a loaded question, Roger. If okay, if we're talking about reprising a role,
Yeah,
like not
yeah,
reprising, but
yeah.
I would love to play, and I was just talking to a friend about this. I would love to play Catwoman, Michelle Pfeiffer, but that's just like a fun project.
Yeah.
Um,
But superhero based?
it is sorry.
So superhero based, you played a lot of superheroes. So the role would be another superhero?
Well, that I don't want to keep doing the same genre, but that's always something that I thought would be fun because she's so phenomenal in that role, and I just
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
But no, my goal and intention, not necessarily like a specific character. I would like to do more grounded dramas,
Okay.
like a This Is Us. I love heavy material. I like tackling current topics. Um, so yeah, the project that I'm here that I was supposed to do is something like that. Um, I'm saying a lot. Someone
Yeah.
told me that I have to stop doing that, and now I'm
Yeah.
very aware of it. So yes, I would like to do more human relationship stories,
Sure. Okay.
less
Um,
genre.
and with that character as well, as far as a character, what about a location? And you shot in so many beautiful areas. What would be the dream location to shoot in?
Well, I just want to go to Bora Bora, so I'll just say Bora Bora. And hopefully someone out there is listening. They have also the Giraffe Hotel. It's in Africa. Also really want to go there. Look at the
Okay.
photos online. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, shooting in South Africa was incredible. That's the furthest I've gone to film a project. So that's a spectacular opportunity, and I'm grateful for the traveling I get to do.
Yeah.
But I also got to go to Saudi Arabia this year to one of their first Comic-Cons.
Oh, wow.
So I'm grateful that what I do somehow translates into me seeing a bit of the world. Apparently not so much Canada, but I'll work on that.
Yeah. Well, especially at the time of the year as well that you're filming.
Mhm.
And I guess that again leads into my next one. We're doing some good segues here. TV shows versus movies. Where if you're in Bora Bora, I'm sure you're praying it's a TV series that are having 5-6 seasons going on. You know, and you've literally got a place to live for 4 or 5 months. TV shows or movies, which do you prefer?
I will never choose. The reason for that, um, you know, on a series, when you have several seasons, you become a family. You get to know cast and crew very well. It becomes comfortable. You truly understand your character. You have the time to you see your character and yourself grow as one.
Yeah.
So I love the family aspects. I love, you know, being comfortable on a set, and also the, you know, the longer you're with cast, crew, and writers, they start to write you things that you want to do.
Sure.
Whereas the positive sides of a feature film would be you hit the ground running. You have to be all in, prepared. You know, this will be done within a month or two,
Right.
and then you move on. And that there's something nice about that as well. You don't have to live within that character or that story for very long.
Right.
You have more opportunity to try different things.
Yeah, I had a feeling you were going to answer it that way. Similar, because I've worked both with, you know, the Private Eyes TV show, which, you know, we both have friends with as well as, you know, the movies where it's literally, it's to your point, it's all in, where the TV shows, they get to know your style, the wardrobe, you know, team gets to know your style, hair and makeup, you know, it's in and
it's a faster process. Yeah.
Oh, sure. Yeah. And let's be honest, it's a solid income stream as well. It's not the constant auditioning. It's not the, am I working this month? Or,
but you do start to miss the auditioning.
I'm sorry?
You do start to miss auditioning when you're on a series and can't audition. It's like a double-edged sword. When you're not working and you're auditioning constantly, it's exhausting and frustrating. But when you're on a series and super grateful to be there, you also look at your friends who are auditioning and having opportunities to do other things. And so it's, you know.
So educate me on that auditioning process. I mean, you've done so many movies. If I'm a director, producer, I'm just going to pull up all of your movies and Laura's a fit or she's not a fit, but you still have to audition or, okay.
Oh yeah.
But a lot of cases, they know they want you though, correct?
Yeah, there are cases in some people's careers where they get a call, will you read the script? I like the script, great, the part's yours.
Okay.
That's not that common unless you are, you know, Reese Witherspoon or whomever.
Right.
A celebrity of that stature does an audition, I assume. But the rest of us do, you know. Yeah, it helps to have a resume of years of work. That might get them to look at you a little more seriously, but you don't know. You audition. You don't know if anyone's going to watch that self-tape you did in your garage for 3 hours.
Yeah.
You don't know. It's just throwing caution to the wind and just wanting to have the opportunity and put in your best work. But it's also very different in Canada versus LA, you know.
Yeah.
A lot of Canadians that go to LA to audition, the LA casting world doesn't know them, so they have to do pre-reads, which is go in the room and meet the casting director, and then they decide if they want you to audition for their projects, and then you go in for the audition, and it's a very stressful process in LA.
Auditioning aside, I wouldn't mind just chatting about the writing process where I've sat in the rooms as a consultant on, you've got 12 writers in the room and they're brilliant, they're funny, and there's coffee and there's pop and there's donuts and you feel the creative vibe. But when you're on set and being a lead character, how much leeway is, you know, Laura just going to go off on it, or, you know, she's got her own spin on it? Do they allow you quite a bit of freedom?
In terms of the dialogue?
Yeah.
Depends on the show. There's the again. It really depends on the show. From my understanding, comedy, you can't really improvise because it's a template, it's a formula. It's written in a certain cadence. You can't change that. But there are shows that I have worked on that there's always a writer on set. So if you have any concerns about a line, or you want to tweak something, or you want to drop something from your line, you can talk to the writer, talk to the director. Sometimes they say, try one your way and then do one scripted, and then they see what fits. But it just depends on the team involved and the show itself.
Yeah, interesting. Because obviously I don't have the experience that you do on reading scripts, but you know, there's been a number that I've read where it's just me, but something doesn't make sense on the character, you know, dialogue where you're literally, you know, immersed in it. I remember on set with the movie with you, and they brought in quite a few of the designers. It was, you know, PR day, I think it was, and you know, you were posing for photos and thank yous and the whole bit, and then it's a matter, you get pulled away and boom, you're on set. I'm like, did she get a chance to rehearse her lines? Like, she literally spent 2 hours, you know, in a photo section. And I think you were with Entertainment Tonight half an hour before that.
Yeah.
But then you just turn it on.
Yeah, I mean, even the interviews, turning it on. I mean, I'm not comfortable in any of this, but no, you've probably, here's the thing, like, you don't want to do press on set unless you've gotten a good amount of the day done. You are comfortable. You've done several takes. Yeah. They're turning around on set, so you know you have at least a half hour before they're going to need you. So the ADs say now's the time to go do your interviews. But you know, you can also say to the AD, like, look, this is a heavy scene when we turn around. So can you just pull me like 5 minutes before I'm needed so I can go off into a corner and beat myself up so I'm in the right mindset and put my music in. Yeah. You know, people are very respectful the majority of the time to actors on set, as you would hope actors are to crew and interviewers. Yeah. So you just have to pick and choose the right timing for that stuff. Okay.
And before Instagram kicks us off, and
does it kick you off?
They kick you off at 60 minutes and they give me the countdown because we're almost at an hour. Honestly, the time just flows with you. We could talk forever on this stuff. Your magazines, the many magazines you've been in, and I love Preferred Magazine. I love the stock of the paper. I love the content. I just love the look of the magazine. Lindsay shoots quite a bit for them. Of the magazines you've done, you know, is there some that have really stood out for you over the years?
Some have stood out in a negative way in terms of the American side. Okay. And the things that I was asked to do early on for like Smallville promo, stuff that I wish, like, at the time I could have had more of a voice. But I think the majority of the ones since then that I have found a bit of a voice or a team that does support my decisions, they've all been great and all very, very different. I'm not a super fashionable person myself in my daily life, but to be, you kind of nodded there, it's true.
No, you always look good.
No, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm anyways, it's fun for me to do these shoots and to sometimes the photographer like Lindsay wants to come up with a concept or a theme. That's fun because I can create a character, and so that makes me more comfortable. I don't necessarily have to be myself in front of the camera. And when else do you get to put on awesome creative fashion, you know, high fashion?
It's nice to be pampered because I was actually with the 2-minute countdown I started. I was with Cynthia the day before your shoot, and like, she was all over town with shoes and jewelry and accessories and dresses and tops and the whole bit. And she put a lot into that. So to be pampered, you just got to be a special feeling showing up, and you know, somebody's on hair and makeup for a couple hours and then they're styling you. So we literally have a minute and a half left. You've got the last minute. Is there any final comments you wanted to make about others or your fans out there?
Thanks for sticking through quarantine with me here on social media. I hope I'm not too boring. And you know, the stuff that I have coming up, there's 3 projects I am here to shoot. We will get to it. You will have new content. Until then, you can watch Unspeakable, my film, and Age of Dysphoria on Super Channel. Check on my page. It's in May. So, yeah. Thank you for chatting with me.
Thank you. We are saving this, and it will be on YouTube for those that do want to watch it.
Oh, fun.
Laura, thank you again for your time.
People can repeat the painting falling on my head over and over again. It's great.
And Frankie diving, sure. Thank you again. Look forward to chatting soon.
You too. Take care. I don't know how to leave, so.
We just hit the X. I'll keep chatting here.
Okay. All right. Bye.
Bye. On Thursday, we're going to be, next Tuesday, we're going to be chatting with an Italian lawyer as well in fashion that covers global fashion, trademark law, what have you, with offices in Italy and Dubai. So thank you again for listening with Laura Vandervoort. Cheers.